Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It's April 30th. This will be our chart listing for today. Another pretty good trading day. It's really all downhill. Um, the way I looked at it is we had one trend down, we had the break, a new low, and then we had a trend up, a break, a new high, and then we started a whole new trend down. There is likely, I haven't looked at it, but I'm guessing there's probably, let's just see real quick what we, it may, maybe there is a slightly larger, yeah, it definitely looks like it here. Two-tiered channel in here. I would say most definitely there's one in here. That's probably going to be it right there with a slight overshoot. And that fits pretty well. So yeah, didn't matter. You really didn't need it. Um, in my opinion, I also see a two-tiered channel here. This is, oops, wrong line. This is really slightly higher here probably. But you can see that two-tiered trading, or not channel, trading range in there. I mean, this has kind of been the MO the last few days. We see it over and over. It's rangy looking, but at the same time, you can find these channels and trends in here. And today it looks like there was a really big, larger pattern. But let's get it out of the way because I don't really think you need it. You couldn't have found it till here, late morning, and it might have helped you in here for some different reasons, but you really didn't need it. So, my goal every day is to be done by lunchtime. That's generally my goal, and generally I'm done by lunchtime. So, um, I'll start around 7 a.m. and I'll trade till about either I meet my target or till about lunchtime or so. And usually by, excuse me, usually by lunchtime I'm done. So I'll have met my target, or I might still be managing a runner or something if I've got one, but for the most part, I'm usually done. But anyway, you saw the bigger picture. Let's talk about the trades as I saw them. Early on, it was a range, no doubt. Um, it was really I was really unsure where the highs were at that point. Um, but we seem to get the most resistance right across here, and so that's what I was looking at though, a range. You can see how prices were just kind of up and down here, and everything's really within the overnight price action well into really till we broke lower here. So um, just after the opening, it seems like we start to sell off just after the opening. There it was. Um, had a channel down, a break, a new low. We chopped around a little bit of correction up, break, a new high, and then we're working down, break, and you got your new low here, and then you push down one more time, and we've been rallying since then. And actually, I forgot to show you this, but once I saw, I would have measured the first move, and then I'd look for a measured move from there. And if it continued to go lower, I'd go all the way to the next high, which is up here, because that's really all one move. Usually you'll find everything within the same day and then use that for your measured move. And you can see that got us right down there about where we got to. So we even went a little bit lower than that. This thing was really weak on this big sell-off here. So um, let's back out, talk about the trades. First trade I saw was a long. I really wasn't sure what to do in here. It looked rangy, so you got a little trend working up, so you've got to assume that you're going back to test these highs. That's what I was looking for. Um, Actually, I circled the wrong thing here. This one should be the one circled. Put it in the wrong spot. But there, notice the new low. There's a first entry pullback. There's a second entry, and this is where you don't want to be going short right there. Look at that. Look at the signal bar. So just sit tight, and when it breaks lower and fails and turns up, go long right there. It turned out to be a nice trade. And you try to ride that back as far as it goes to the high. Um, it's pretty obvious when you got this bearish bar that closed outside, it's probably over. That's probably a good place to exit if you didn't exit up here near these highs already. And if you've got runners, you may not have gotten runners on this one. I can't remember if you, it depends on where your entry was, but if you entered at 95 and a quarter, yeah, you would have been out of this thing before it pulled back and went higher. So um, no runners on that one, at least not on my chart. Now your chart could have been a little bit different. Somebody asked me about this today. I get this question from time to time. Um, Really, to enter this trade, if you enter on a stop right there, and you got to, in the most you should use is a 2 point stop. So if you can't get your stop below, this is really the low last swing. So that's really where you want your stop to go at a very minimum below that bar, but you probably want it below this one. But if you don't have room, you've either got to use a limit order or skip the trade, or you just have to risk it. And I would say early on, don't risk it. Once you get better at the price action, I don't worry too much about how big my stop is anymore. I'll just be honest. I put my stop where it's supposed to go, and if it's 2.5 points or 3 points, I don't worry about it unless I'm wrong. And all of a sudden, it's usually pretty obvious if you're wrong. Occasionally, you can get faked out, but once you kind of understand what's going on, like right here, this one pulled back. And it probably looked really bearish at one point because it opened here and it was trading way down here. But look, by the time that bar closes, it's back up here, and it's a no. It's a it turns out to be just another turn down and trap before it went higher. And so you have to put your stop where it's supposed to go, or skip the trade, basically, or try getting in with a limit order so you can get your stop where it goes. I mean, on this one, you could have done that. I know you could have gotten in at least a tick back in that bar. And if you did that, you still wouldn't have had a runner on that particular trade. But a lot of times that'll give you a little better entry, and your runner survives as well if you're using a break-even stop. So and again, your runners depend on how you're using it, but I always assume you're using a break-even stop, not on the trade, but on the runner itself. So in other words, if you entered at one tick above this bar, then once you scalp out, your stop goes at the same place you entered, and basically all you lose is um, your on that set of runners, or that one runner or a set, no matter how many you use. The only thing you would lose as far as would be your commission. So, but the trade is basically a break-even trade. So, but anyway. Nice trade there, and then it turns down. I think it's risky entering right there. You got a little bit of a channel working up here, but that's the first break. It tries to come back for a retest, but it can't do it. And this, it kind of made it questionable if this was a good channel here or not, because it didn't hold and really confirm it. It did, but it pushed on through it. And really, the trading range looked more important at that point. Notice what it did here. It tested it, it pulled back, it tested it again, and then it made a little lower high right there. That's a failed second entry long, right into that resistance. And it turns and goes lower. It went out the top, turns and goes out the bottom. I drew this one green because you didn't really have a break of this yet. The last high was up here, even though you were finding resistance here. There's still a chance it might push through a little bit and then turn down. So this one's real borderline. It could almost be red. But there's some overlap there too. Notice all the stacked up bars and a doji over here. So there's some reasons to be a little bit leery of that trade. But if you're going to enter here, I'd enter short before I enter long. So because usually what happens is what happened right here. Breaks higher and turns down, and it traps you on the break higher. On the wrong side, it turns and goes straight to the other side. So I mean, that was fast. Those people all these longs were exiting like crazy, and just by the time they all exit, it reverses and goes right back to the same place again. And that's pretty typical of what prices will do to you. So um, actually, I skipped over. How did I get to that trade? I skipped a few trades here. you had this one working down, and you get the bounce. And this is like a double test. Here's your low. You tested it twice. Look at that reversal bar go long there. Then it pulls back and gives you a little higher low with another little bullish type bar. You could either add on there or enter there if you hadn't exited yet. Um, that turned out to be a really nice move. Then it pulls back and gives you the failed second entry short. Go long again. And you figured it's coming back to here. And it does. And at that point, I wasn't 100% sure about the channel, but you can see how it came into play later. We bounced down there again and so forth. So I believe it to be a valid channel. And then, of course, we just talked about that trade. I don't know how I skipped ahead to that one, but I did. So, but anyway, this is what a reversal looks like. It comes off that high. It goes straight through that EMA, pulls back, tests it, and this is also a failed second entry long here because you can count that double top as a new high, pull back, and there's your first entry. It pulls back, second entry, so it could be a failed second entry long. It's a reversal type pattern. You don't know that it's going to take off like that, but you figure it's going to work its way back down to here. And this was the best trade of the day so far. Look at it go. Any runners are easily safe here. And guess what? It pulls, it just goes right on through the low. It pulls back, it tests it, and it gives you another big bearish bar. Again, I like this one just to go short. And then, of course, I'd be looking for this measured move here, which we got. And I'd be looking for the one from here to here, lower. Of course, we way overshot that. But this turned out to be another good trade. Down it's going. And of course, if you drew this line up here and you pull it down, you can see it fits in there perfectly, and that's exactly where we bounce. You got this channel working down, so and this confirmed the two swings, and so you're still looking for a low. It was tempting to go short right there, but you didn't have a break of this yet, and so when it broke lower here and then pull back, and then you get this big bearish bar. And again, this is probably over 2 points, so it's one of those kind, you just have to make up your mind what you want to do, and it's a quick, easy move, to be honest with you. And once you can read this thing read the chart pretty well or fairly well, I rarely even think about how big my stop is anymore, but I don't want to play that down because early on, especially when you first go live, you can't afford to play down your stop because you're going to be wrong more often, and you can't afford to take those big hits. So there's another option you can do too if your bars are large. You can make your chart slightly smaller. It's going to move a little bit faster, but probably if you don't get it too, if you don't go too small, maybe go to try 1,800 ticks or then 1,500 ticks, and you're probably still not, it's probably not going to move too fast for you, but will probably make your bars a little smaller. The market seems to be volatile the last few days, so we're getting more big bars, and the more volatile it is, the more of those big bars you get. And but when the market's acting normal, you don't get a lot of those big 2 point or bigger bars. But the thing is, when it's volatile like this, you get much bigger moves. So that's the other option than you can either make your chart small or try to get in with a limit order. But you're going to miss a lot of good trades trying to sneak in and get a better price with a limit order. You're going to miss the best trades, in fact. And that's what you don't want to do because that's where your runners always come from in most cases, just like this one right here. If you tried to sneak in that with a limit order, you got left behind. So the other thing you can do is if you got to make your stop a little bigger, then your target needs to be a little bit bigger. And you can see how easy that is with these bigger bars, how much bigger the move is, so your target can be larger. And they're usually pretty fast moves on top of that. So there's some ways around it. If you want to know more, you can drop me an email or whatever, and we can talk further about it. But and there are some lessons on that, I believe, in the on the website too. So, but we make this new low, we're working up. We talked about this trade, another quick move down. It makes it. You got your break now, a new low. So be careful. This is where the reversals come in. Watch for a reversal. And sure enough, you get a new low here, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. I didn't like going long on this one, even though it's a failed second entry short, because it's too much overlap and stacked up. So this is more like a little congestion, which you treat more like a range. So this is like a breakout pullback long, and it makes yet another high. So I like that one. Um, you get just enough to get out of this one, and then it turns down again. But I don't think you want to go short here, even though you got a little bit of a what looks like a channel working up and a break and two legs to a new high. This larger pattern, we've already had a new low, so it's a good chance we're going to get a reversal. And this whole thing looks kind of rangy here, so I would just kind of, you almost have to go to range rules. I don't have any lines on there, but if you drag them down, you can see them. This looks like a range right across here. And so this is a bounce off the low. You got to get long right into those highs there, but that is, I mean, look how many times we tested that low, and look at that reversal bar. I wouldn't play around with that. I'd put my stop there and say, let's see what happens, and look at it go. And I couldn't decide if I wanted to make this one green or blue because the bar is so big. And you could have gotten in maybe a tick or maybe a couple of ticks back into that bar, but not very far. And it still wouldn't get you within your 2-point value. So it's one of those you just have to, you have to trust what you're seeing. And when you see a reversal bar like that after a big move down, especially when it's bounced, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the 8th time in a row it bounced there. Of course, it turned down off these highs a few times, but not nearly as many. A few times it broke through, and it made a higher high here. And so this is probably more like a trap, and you're looking for a reversal because of the bigger pattern. We had the break and the new low, and off it goes. And really, the only place I see that you could get into this one is right here. So, because once this is working up, there's just really not another safe place to enter. You might have considered entering right here, but it's not a very good setup bar. And now you got a double top, and you do have a failed second entry short here. Actually, the failed second entry short is right here because you did tick lower right there. But now you've got that break, and you've already tried to test it. It's tempting to go long right there, and I probably should give that a green circle. And it's just one of those. I mean, it's almost just as tempting to go short right there. But I think you got to wait till we haven't even come back and tested the EMA yet, so you got to be real careful about going short there. And if you're way away like this one was tempting as well because you're overdue. But this looks more choppy and rangy looking, and so that was the reason I didn't really like it either direction. But I'm gonna go ahead and give that a green. Once you saw that reversal bar, it's tempting to go long there. And so you probably could have taken a long right there. And it was good for a point or two. Easy scalp for the most part, but it actually got a little bit more than that. And it didn't really go back to its original high up here. You notice that the original high of the upper range is way up here. It didn't really go back to that, and then it turns down. So, um, that was one reason I'm real leery about going short here, because there's a good chance that usually you're going to test these other highs, but when you realize it's going lower, you just then that, hey, that's a indication that the market is actually weak now. So that's a good reason to actually consider getting back on short. And it was really tempting to go short here, but you got to go short right into that EMA. Look at all that resistance across there. I just think it's too risky. Even though it took off really fast, you're better off to wait on this entry, which now you come through the EMA, you come back, you tested it, and look at that big bearish bar. and it actually went higher and turned and went out the low side. So you could have considered entering there, but I think you were better off to wait on this bar, and off it goes. And at that point, I'd have been looking for it to test this low again, which it does. Um, and I actually like this one because it's, notice the new high here. It pulled back first entry, pulled back secondary. It went out the top first, then turn and goes out the low. Um, so I like that. It's just enough for a scalp. You actually had an extra tick or two, and then it bounces. So there was enough room to get out before you got to this low. And it was tempting to go long there, but I think you'd be crazy to do it at this point. After that, we came up short here. It either means you're going to come up short here, or you're going to overshoot it by at least that amount in most cases. And you see we kind of overshot it right here, about that amount, and it tried to reverse, but it was so weak it just, man, this thing just sold off. So, um, but we kind of got hung up here, but notice the new high, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. Um, Big bearish reversal bar. Um, Again, so I like that one. And it took that one a minute to work on down, but then it comes back and it tests that high one more time, and then it's headed low again. So I was kind of treating this like another trading range again, especially those highs. The bias is down at this point, and so you just about want to go high every time you get a good setup off of that those highs right there with a bearish reversal type bar, a good reversal bar. Even that one's tempting, and I wouldn't have faulted anybody for taking it for the most part, but you really didn't have as much evidence that this was a range yet, and um, you didn't really have enough information to really know that this trend line is valid. You just had those first two swings, and it's really quick to be trading above it again. So, and it's right into the EMA. Look how flat the EMA is. Just several reasons I think you got to skip that one until you get the trap, which is right there, and then it turns down. And then you get another one. And big nice move. And I would have already showed you one way I would have been looking for a measured move. I would have measured this. And when it went lower right here, I would have measured it again. You really probably need to go from the high. You see it try, it looked like it was going to try to bounce right there, but this thing was weak. For whatever reason, I haven't looked at any of the news or anything. Like I always say, it doesn't matter. All that matters is this thing is going down, and it's going down hard. So look for a way to get in short and go with it. I didn't mark any more after that, although there's probably another trade or two in here. There's definitely one right here, but I didn't mark any more of them. It was it gets you into the 2 o'clock hour here, but you really could have. I don't think I would have entered on that first entry right there. But when you got this little trap right here, I wouldn't have had a problem entering short with that one. Um, so we'll go ahead and circle it green. It's borderline being a red trade, is being a perfectly you know straightforward short. But there's some reasons, the overlapping bars, the fact that you're a little bit away from the EMA. Usually you want to be entering at the EMA or off the trend line, but this thing is weak. There was a couple of measured moves that got you further down in here, so there were some different reasons to consider that one, but there's some reasons to be a little bit leery of it as well. So I'll just give it a green one. And that got you into the 2 o'clock hour for sure. So, but there were so many trades early on. I mean, you just don't want to hardly risk something like that late in the day. But a good trading day. It's been a pretty good week. There's been a lot of volatility, it seems, lately. We've kind of had the same MO, but usually late, by afternoon, it rallies back some of it. And it looks like we're trying to do that today. Uh, but we don't have much time left. We're not going to rally back a whole lot unless this thing shoots straight up. And I've seen it do that in the last 15 minutes of the day, but I'd be surprised if it goes a whole lot higher. We'll probably take back 50% of this move is probably going to be right in here somewhere. That's a possibility. But I wouldn't be trading and trying to get any of that this late in the day. And by the time this video's up, it'll probably be over anyway. So, but a long day, a long video. A lot of trades to talk about today. We're already almost 30 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up. No No chart listed tomorrow. I'll be taking a 3-day weekend. I'll probably trade tomorrow morning, but definitely no chart listed tomorrow. So, uh, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.